Okay, so we're going to take 30 seconds. You can pause the video and we're going to go on to page 12 for 1.05. And we are going to have the imaginary number I and how to simplify. So let's do an example. If I wanted to simplify the square root of negative 12. Let's start really easy. I know that I can the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the I. So when I have a radical, I can rewrite it as the multiplication of two radicals of the same degree or the same index. So I can do the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 12. Because I know that I'm multiplying two radicals, I can just multiply under the radicals to get me back that negative 12. So I want to do this because when there's a negative number under the radical, technically I have an imaginary number, and I can't really simplify it. So I want to take out this negative 1, square root of negative 1, so I can simplify that square root of 12. So this becomes I times the square root of 12. But when I look at this, the structure of this radical, I know that 12 has a factor that is a perfect square. So I know that I can rewrite this as the square root of 4 times the square root of 3. Because I know that the square root of 4 is a perfect square. And that leaves me with 2 times the square root of 3. And then I have that I. But I always write numbers in front of letters, no matter what. So I'm just going to switch these two and write 2I square root of 3. And then that's my final answer. So the first thing I want to do is always take out my I. And then I'm going to simplify the radical. So we can look at another example just to make sure that we are really solidifying this idea here. So I have the square root of negative 63. Right, so the first thing I want to do is take out the I. So I'm going to rewrite this as the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 63. Because I know these are equivalent. I can write one radical as two radicals being multiplied. So this becomes an I times the square root of 63. So now I move on to step 2, which is simplify the radical. So what perfect square goes into 63? Well, I'm thinking 1 and 63, no. 2, no. 3 and 21. Those aren't perfect squares. 4, 5, 6, 7 is not a perfect square. 9 and 7. So once again, I can rewrite 63 as two radicals being multiplied, because I know 9 times 7 is 63. And I know that 9 is a perfect square. So I have 3 times the square root of 7, and bring down that I, because it's still part of the expression. But I want to switch, because I always want numbers in front of letters, no matter what. So 3I square root of 7. So I is not a variable, but we do mathematically treat it like one. So we treat it like as if it were an X or a Y. Even though it does have a value, we treat it like a variable. So this is my correctly written final answer. So I always want to have a number, I, and then the radical when I write my final and complete answers. Please comment and let me know in Google Classroom or in an email if this was helpful. If it wasn't, I hope to see you in office hours. Bye, guys.